The M&A Advisor is pleased now to be joined by Tom Staszak, Managing Director of Generational Equity. Thank you so much for being with us, Tom.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about Generational Equity, what you do.
We are a middle market mergers and acquisitions firm. We specialize in helping business owners transact their businesses. So we are based in Dallas, privately held company. We have over 200 employees, and we're very active in the lower middle market, helping business owners find either partners or buyers for their businesses.
And what do you see as far as the outlook for cross-border M&A?
It's busy. A significant portion of our transactions are international. We've sold, companies to British, Canadian, Japanese, Chinese companies. I think we'll talk a little bit today about Shea Exchange, which sold to one of the largest companies in the world.
Fascinating case. Let's talk about that transaction.
So, Shea Exchange is a company in the Dallas area, and what they specialize in is reverse logistics and consumer electronics trade-in. So if you walked into a retailer, like a Walmart, and traded in your cell phone for a new cell phone, they would be the company behind the scenes that would be involved in that type of transaction. And they work with a number of retailers. They also work directly with consumers and different places to source the products. And they do reverse logistics. So if you had a warranty issue with a consumer electronics product, they would be the company behind the scenes that would manage that whole process. And they're one of the fast growing companies in that space. It's a very large and active space, both domestically and internationally. So we had some very good interest in the company.
And so why did they come to you? What was their need?
They wanted to have a path for growth for the company because they were faced with a situation where there's some very large players in the industry. SoftBank entered into the industry, a very large Japanese bank, funding some of their competitors. Some of their other competitors had very large private equity groups funding them, and they had carved out a very attractive niche in the market for themselves with the retailers. But to continue to manage that space and be competitive, they needed to have a partner. So they came to us to help them analyze the industry and find the right buyer, and we think we did a good job for them.
And what is to be learned from this case?
You never know where the buyer's going to come from. We had some thoughts in our minds about who the buyer would be, and that ended up to not be the case. And from a secondary standpoint, we went out to other competitors in the market that were well-funded and had some conversations with them. And those led down a very good path. We thought there might be a good synergy there with some of the competitors. What we found was casting a wider net solved their real problem. What they needed was somebody that had significant capital and additional resources to bring to bear that could open up new markets for them and help guide them throughout this changing process. The industry was changing dramatically. So what you saw was competitors were winning and losing very significant customers and taking them from each other and competing for them. And to do that as a privately held business and do it without a lot of private equity backing or a strategic partner, it was almost a situation where you might get not be in the position you wanted to be in to compete. So by partnering with a company like they did, Foxconn, a Chinese publicly traded company with 1.4 million employees and over 100 billion in revenue, they were able to open up those foreign markets, still source the product from the U.S. into the foreign markets, and have the depth of and breadth of management and expertise to compete. So that was what drove it.
And how do they stand today?
They're doing great. They have they're continuing to chase new retailers. They specialize in the retail space, so they're working with retailers. They've added OEM manufacturers, and the company they partnered with just announced a new relationship with Apple retail stores in China. So they're also involved in those types of things. So it's a great situation for them.
With the changing arena, do you expect to see more cases like this?
Yeah, we expect to see the international buyers in general be very active in the space. We expect that the industry itself will see more consolidation, and it's going to remain active for a long time. But they're well positioned for the future.
Okay, and speaking a little bit more generally, when we talk about cross-border transactions and areas of growth, what do you see as the hotter areas looking into the future?
Sure. Well, it's a combination of things. The U.S. dollar is very strong, so there's some concerns about some headwinds against that for international M&A. But what you're going to see is the U.S. market is so strong compared to some of the other markets in the world that there's still demand here, and there's some money still flowing in. There's a lot of pent-up capital that's looking for places to go that's going to be successful, and the U.S. Remains very attractive. So from just ongoing interest for the foreseeable future, the U.S. looks very attractive for international investments. As far as sectors, I think healthcare is going to be a significant driving factor going forward. Consumer electronics, the U.S. leads there and will continue to do so. So I think we're going to see more in that space. But really, it's going to be strategically driven by different companies. But those two sectors, I think, are going to remain strong.
Anything your company is particularly excited about?
Just working in the middle market, being able to see that companies that have over $100 billion in revenue are going to be interested in pursuing companies that might not have just be in the tens of millions of revenue, speaks to the strength of the marketplace. And so we're excited to see that international money is still going to be focused on not just the big deals, but lots of transactions.
Tom, it was a pleasure to have you here today. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you.